Good day, family. God bless you. It's the time you've been waiting for. Senior Talk with Clara Hubbard, your resource and information show for people getting better with age. Well, today is a special show. This show is dedicated to National Elder Abuse Month or Day, June 15th. Let me be very clear. We're wearing purple today. However you choose to do it, please do so. I have on purple dress. All right. So joining me today is my good friend, Mr. Hill. He is with Metropolitan Family Services. I don't want to spoil it. Just stay tuned. He'll be joining us right after this commercial intro here on Senior Talk with Claire Hubbard. All right, everyone. God bless you. As I mentioned today is June 15th. It is National Elder Abuse Day, and we're asking everyone to wear purple. But of course, over some time, life happens. Me and Mr. Hill supposed to get together some months ago. I reached out to him. I said, you know what? This is the right time. So we want everyone, please know you're watching this on Senior Talk Media on Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube. We listen to this in other markets across the country. So everyone, please remember, if you have a product, business, or service that could directly benefit our viewer and listenership, you're welcome to visit my website at srtkmedia.com. Well, right now, Mr. Lewis Hill is going to take it to the bridge. We're going to bring it all up. And let me tell you, I'm going to put their information out now. He is representing Metro Family Services, Adult Protective Services at 3843 West 63rd Street in the great city I call Inglewood, in the great city of Inglewood. It's a city in itself. So, Mr. Lewis Hill, welcome to Senior Talk. How are you this day?
I am well. Thank you, Clara, and thank you for having me. We appreciate it.
My divine pleasure, let me tell you. So, we're going to dive into, let me say this, I'm going to be on the receiving end.
Okay.
So, how would you like to bring this information that is so richly needed in our community to the platform? You go ahead and take it away.
Okay. All right. So once again, thank you, Clara, for allowing the Illinois Department of Aging and Metropolitan Family Services this wonderful opportunity on your platform to talk about adult protective services and these wonderful services that we provide for vulnerable individuals in our communities. But first, before I begin, I want to say that today is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. World Elder Abuse Awareness Day is to provide an opportunity for communities across the world to promote a better understanding of abuse and neglect of older persons by raising awareness of the cultural, social, economic, and demographic processes affecting elder abuse and neglect. So this day is a day about survivors, and we acknowledge and we recognize some of the trials and tribulations that they had to go through. And that's why we're wearing purple today.
That's why we're wearing purple today. Now, yes. I want to bring to the attention to the definition in itself. Some people think that elder abuse is just physical abuse. It comes in various forms. Can you relate what those forms are?
Yep. So just a brief history. In 2013, the Illinois Department on Aging and the state of Illinois enacted the legislation of the Adult Protective Services Act. Mm-hmm. So the Adult Protective Services Act is law in all 50 states. And we investigate allegations of abuse, neglect, and exploitation, and we respond to reported problems of self-neglect. So with the physical abuse, defining physical abuse is inflicting physical harm or pain, but we also investigate other allegations: sexual abuse, meaning touching, fondling, sexual activity of an adult without their understanding or permission or willing to consent. Mm-hmm. We also investigate allegations of emotional abuse. Now, 45% of the reports that we receive are for emotional abuse, meaning verbally assaulting, threats or maltreatment, harassment, or intimidation. Emotional abuse is often accompanied by other forms of abuse. Confinement, meaning restraining or isolating an older adult other than for medical reasons. We also investigate allegations of passive neglect, Passive neglect means the caregiver's failure to provide an adult with life's necessities, including but not limited to food, clothing, shelter, or medical care. We also investigate allegations of willful deprivation. That means that a caregiver or family member, they're willfully depriving or deliberately denying an adult medication, medical care, shelter, food, therapeutic devices, or other physical assistance. And then on the number one allegation that we received, especially during the pandemic, is financial exploitation. Roughly 58% of our reports are for financial exploitation, meaning the misuse or withholding of an adult's resources by another person to the disadvantage of the adult and for the profit or advantage of someone else. In 2022, in January, the department enacted abandonment, meaning a caregiver abandons a vulnerable adult or a person with disabilities with no care plan in place.
Woo. Okay, you got a lot there in that one moment. Let me say this. I know the financial abuse to be so true. Years ago, a friend of mine worked at a major bank institution. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm going to be more in depth in bringing this real life situations to this platform. We need to look at who are our caregivers and who are over our well-being. This young man was caring for his grandmother. Mm-hmm. Went to the bank to do transactions for grandmother. However, grandmother was ripped out of her account over $30,000. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
And she's entrusting him. And you're stealing from your loved one. Who does that?
Yes, absolutely.
What kind of people are we dealing with? So you have to look at those persons. Sometimes those persons may not be the best person to care for you. And we have to be real and honest about it. Look at their characteristics, their manner of taking care of their expenses, et cetera, et cetera. So there's another one that I heard, and I've witnessed only through a phone call, of bullying. Mm-hmm. And I'm stunned that seniors are being bullied. That's really a lot to inhale. So give us your background, Mr. Hill. What brings you as an expert in this field and in adult protective services?
Yes, absolutely. So I've been a part of the Aging Network since 2006. So I have an extensive history in advocating and providing intervention services for our vulnerable older adults. One of the things that we've actually come across during the pandemic is an uptick and an increase in financial exploitation. And one of the things that we tell our clients and vulnerable adults, Clara, is if you don't plan your estate, someone will plan it for you. And usually they don't have your best interest at mind. Mm-hmm. What we find out is that, our seniors, they save up, for their retirement and for their money to be used for their long-term care. And a lot of times that's circumvented by scrupulous caregivers and characters, attempting to, and in some cases are successful in depleting the estates. Mm-hmm. For our seniors, $1 to $1 million makes a difference.
Yes.
And we do Be Safe trainings, and we advocate for our vulnerable adults, because I'm telling you, if we're all going to decline cognitively, and if we don't plan our estate, and if we don't plan our financial arrangements, then we become vulnerable to those who have other plans in mind.
So we're here on a platform where people are going to see this on many ways: social media, YouTube, et cetera, et cetera. Some of them hear it on a local radio station in their city and state. What is a conversation that you would like to relay to that senior who may believe they're experiencing abuse? What is that conversation like? How do we get them to become more comfortable with having a conversation with an expert?
Yes. So first, I want to say trust, that we are in the business of trusting our clients. We don't shame. We don't blame our clients. We adhere to client confidentiality. We encourage our vulnerable adults who are experiencing abuse, neglect, and exploitation to to feel comfortable with reaching out to us without fear of retribution or retaliation, because we do work closely with law enforcement. We work closely with other professionals in the community, service providers, to ensure that there's a holistic approach to providing these services for our seniors, especially the more vulnerable seniors. You know, Claire, they say that research suggests that 1 out of 3 seniors, 63 plus, has either a functional impairment or a cognitive impairment. So as we continue to age, I mean, there will be decline, and we just want to make sure that we're setting ourselves up so that we're not at risk for abuse, neglect, and exploitation. And let me just say that the abuser profile, 3 in 4 abusers are family members of the victim.
Wow.
The largest category being children, followed by other family members and spouses. So female abusers are slightly exceed male abusers. So, and also according to research, almost half of the abusers are the victim's primary caregiver.
Yes.
So the state of Illinois Department on Aging and Metropolitan Family Services want you to know that you do not have to suffer in silence. We're working together to work for you, to help you alleviate those mitigating situations that put you at risk of harm. So there's no retribution, no retaliation. There's no shaming or blaming. We want you to come forward so we can help.
Let me ask you this. More recently, we've been hearing a lot about nursing home neglect.
Mm-hmm.
Now, does your service offer assistance with family members regarding nursing home neglect, or what is that process like?
So in the state of Illinois, if a individual has been in a nursing home for over 60 days, then the jurisdiction would fall under the long-term ombudsman program for the state of Illinois. Okay. And they would investigate allegations of abuse, neglect in skilled facilities. Now, there's one caveat to that, Claire. If the financial exploitation is occurring in the community, for example, if a client or if a senior relocates to a skilled nursing facility, but the money is still in the community, and the person that's managing the money in the community is not forwarding that money to the skilled facility, then that's where we will come in at to make sure that that person in the community is relinquishing those funds.
Fantastic. Okay. So we have a PowerPoint, and I'm going to bring it up, and then just tell me how you want me to, I'll be your assistant today. Just tell me when to go next. That's all I'm asking.
Okay. Well, you can go to the next slide.
All right. Let me see what the numbers are. There we go.
Okay. And the theme of the Illinois Department on Aging this year is we're all working together. We're working together as service providers to alleviate risk of harm to our vulnerable older adults. Next slide. And here's just some statistics that by the year 2030, the U.S. population over the age of 65 is expected to exceed 71.5 million. For us in the aging network, that's huge, because what that means is that there's a propensity for abuse, neglect, and exploitation. So, and like I was saying earlier, the number of older individuals with chronic health conditions will increase by 200%. More vulnerable seniors. Seniors will comprise about 30% of our state's entire population.
Wow.
30%. That's huge. Next slide.
All right.
And so the goal of our program is to maintain proper health, safety, and welfare of our older adults and adults with disabilities. So we work with and on behalf of individuals. We conduct investigation of allegations of abuse, neglect, and exploitation to determine the risk level, or if there is a risk level, and then implement community supportive service to mitigate those risk levels.
Wow.
But the overarching theme of our program is for our seniors to age gracefully, with dignity, and family and community support at home. Now, we do not believe in relocating our clients to nursing homes. That's the last option.
Yes. Be true on that. All right. Mm-hmm. Next slide.
Yes, next slide.
All right.
And so the criteria, a person has to be, in this case, 60 years or older. It has to constitute abuse, neglect, and exploitation, occur within the last 12 months. The only caveat to the 12-month stipulation, if the abuse it happened, let's say 2 years ago, but it's still adversely impacting the vulnerable senior today, we would take that case. It has to have occurred in a domestic setting, and we have to have an identified abuser. I mean, the caller can call our intake line and say unknown nephew, unknown son, unknown brother. but we have to have an identified person that's allegedly abusing our vulnerable adult. Next slide.
Okay.
And these are just some statistics for FY21 in the state of Illinois. Be mindful that we are leaving our vulnerable adults behind. And I'm saying that because 1 out of every 4 incidents are reported. 1 out of every 4. So we are leaving our vulnerable seniors behind. And that's why it's important that if you see something, you hear something, say something.
Mm-hmm.
In Illinois, there were 22,567 reported cases. In Cook County, there were 7,137 cases. At Metropolitan Family Services. So we're the largest, so we receive the largest amount of intakes throughout the entire state of Illinois. We're not the largest geographic area, but we receive the most intakes. The state of Illinois contracts 39 provider agencies throughout the entire state to conduct these investigations. And so for Metropolitan, at the Midway office, we got 1,700 reports. We have an Everson Skokie office that's further on the north side.
Mm-hmm.
They received 353 reports. Substantiated meaning the cases that we actually opened up and we found some indication of or verified some indication of abuse, neglect, and exploitation.
Gotcha.
And we work on behalf of the senior.
Wow.
Next slide. Mm-hmm. And if I'm going too fast, you can slow me down.
I'm taking it in.
Okay. All right, and this is the allegations that we investigate. So the state of Illinois has certified caseworkers to conduct these investigations. The caseworkers have to go through trainings. They have to go through a phase 1 and phase 2, and they have to go through a virtual training in order to and be put on the state of Illinois registry in order to conduct these investigations. Abuse looks like physical, like I said earlier, inflicting pain or injury, sexual, touching, fondling, emotional. We get a lot of emotional combined with the financial. You know, if you don't give me your Social Security check, you know, I'm not going to help you, you know, with your daily living needs, right? I want you seniors to know that there is help for you out here. We do investigate those allegations and provide the really good services to help mitigate those risk factors. Confinement, restraining, or isolating without legal authority. If someone's locking you in your home and they say, "Hey, I'm going to lock the doors until I get back," and don't answer the door for anyone, that's confinement. According to the state of Illinois, that's against the law. If you're experiencing that, give us a call. Next slide.
Wow.
Next slide. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Passive neglect, just failure to provide a person with necessities of life, such as food, shelter, clothing. We're seeing a lot of this during COVID. It's the passive neglect with our vulnerable older adults is becoming more rampant because of the, I want to say crab in the barrel, but it's a me type of environment at this point. So willful deprivation, denying medications, medical care, shelter, and like I said, financial exploitation is the #1 allegation that we receive. And if you do not plan your estate, I've been doing this for almost 20 years. Someone will do it for you. And most times they do not have your best interests at heart. Here at Metropolitan Family Services, we have the Legal Aid Society. The Legal Aid Society has been around since the Chicago fire.
Yes.
And they do assist with our vulnerable adults with estate planning. The less money you have, the more likely you are to receive their services. If you do have an estate with considerable income, they can refer you to a reputable financial entity to help you. And what I say when I go out and do these trainings is that, you know, we think that our son, our grandson, our spouses are the best thing since sliced bread. But when money is involved, it changes things.
It sure does.
That when you're planning your estate, it's okay to have your husband, your wife, your nephew, your cousin, but have a third party involved that's unbiased and that's not going to subject their personal thoughts and feelings into your planning. So that's really, really important.
And we mentioned that in our virtual green room. You know, that's the whole point. You got to look at the characteristics of somebody taking care of your well-being.
That's right.
It's not always our loved ones. It really isn't. And you need to watch their behaviors. It's very critical.
Yep.
You don't want anyone who's unstable.
That's right.
Taking care of your business.
That's right.
And so it's something to really think about, and it needs to be a further discussion about it. Let me ask you this, Mr. Hill. Did you ever see that movie, I Care a Lot?
No. Oh. Unfortunately, no, I didn't.
We're going to reach back to that. There's a movie out called I Care a Lot. I believe it's on Netflix. Mm-hmm. And the total financial exploitation was adhered. It was all in the film. I don't even want to spoil it because I'm trying to work with Officer McLean to show that as a movie and maybe have your group come in and do the follow-up.
Absolutely.
I think it's critical. It's a serious movie.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right, Clara. And financial exploitation is huge. And just on a side note, I was in CVS the other day, and just how wonderful things work out. As I was at the ATM and they had a cash station, what they call it, the MoneyGram cash machine right next to me. And this senior walked up and she was trying to use the machine and she really couldn't comprehend how to do it. But she said, "Hey, Mr. Can I use this machine to send money?" I said, "Yeah, but what are you trying to get at?" He said, "Well, these individuals told me that if I send my Social Security check, that I would win this lottery." And I said, "Ma'am, don't do it. Where's your family?" Right? And she had family, but she was out on her own and she was about to give them that money. And mind you, Clara, this was right next door to the police station.
Oh, I'm clear. I'm very clear.
So she had the number with her. I said, "Let's call this number." And we both called the number and they gave me the same spiel that they gave her.
Wow.
So luckily I was able to intervene and help her in that situation, but it is real. Financial exploitation is real. We have, for you seniors out there listening, be very mindful, be careful, because we do have scrupulous characters who are accosting our seniors in Home Depot and Jewel, and they're saying, "Let me help you with your groceries." And we've had clients a week later where the scrupulous character has keys to the senior's home. You guys have to be really, really careful and mindful that they are preying on the vulnerable of us.
Exactly.
So just be mindful that there are really good services in the state of Illinois that can help mitigate any safety or health concerns that you're going through.
You got that right. And we have to also look at too, seniors, we're getting better with age. We're living longer.
That's right.
And a lot of us choose to be as independent as possible.
Right. That's right.
So we have to really, really buckle down and think about those things. We have to protect ourselves and have someone would provide information for you, or tell somebody you leaving the house if you're independent, and then tell them when you're coming back. We have to. It's critical because they're doing it by all means, and people are watching you all the time. You just never know. So safety is very critical. All right. So I'm sorry.
That's fine. Abandonment was the last one, and I mentioned that briefly. As a caregiver ceases to provide care to an individual without a place for replacement care, and we have a lot of these cases where they're they're relocating our seniors to hospital settings and not returning phone calls. And
yes, indeed,
abandoning the seniors.
Yes, indeed. And what I'm gonna tell you this. Years ago, my in-laws had medical treatments, they had their primary doctor. And one day I was here and a lady showed up at the door and said, "Hi, I'm from the doctor's office." So my mother-in-law said, "Wait a minute, hold on. Well, we always get a call from the doctor to make sure we're coming." She said, "Let me go check my calendar." And that person jetted off this porch.
Right.
You understand me?
That's right. That's right. They're praying. Yep.
How many people say, "Oh, got a doctor's office," and open the door, come on in?
But look at this though, Clara. If they try that same scheme with 10 vulnerable adults and they are successful with 3, that means they've won, right?
That's right.
So we try to reach as many of our vulnerable seniors as we can with this education and information. Let them know that there are some really good services available to help, if they come across situations like this.
Absolutely. All right. So this domestic violence, what does that look like?
So domestic violence. So our services center around domestic violence. So the emotional, physical abuse, all of that occurs within a domestic setting. So what does domestic violence look like in later life? Is the allegations that I just explained to you. So abandonment will be the last allegation that we would investigate. If you can go to the next slide.
Oh, let me get a point here, and I'll go to the next slide. So because I'm out, well, we're going to be getting back in the community. But years ago, I used to do senior talk at the movies and take them all out. One lady said to me, "I need your help." I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "Girl," this is what she said. "The gentleman in my building, we are in a relationship, but he is abusing me. And I'm afraid if I tell management, they're going to kick us both out the building." So I'm thinking to myself, you're vulnerable. You're in a situation where this is your home, and you don't, she didn't have resources. She was too uncomfortable to tell anybody. Mm-hmm. So what I had to do was I had to give her a number or to one of my officers, CAPS officers, who are beautiful. CAPS officers are the bomb. We love you very much.
Yes, we do.
Community officer policing. Let me tell you this. She was the officer was able to call the lady and say, "Hey, how you doing? What's going on?" But she had a point of contact. I'm just hoping during that communication, we were able to take care of this woman and keep her safe. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
But otherwise, I mean, she said, this is what she said. I was waiting till we had an event so I could talk to you.
See? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Blew me away.
Suffering in silence.
Yeah, that's it. Suffering in silence. It really was a challenge, but I was so glad that she was able to be there to tell me. And then I said, if you don't mind, I'll give your number to one of the community officers in your area and let them give you a call.
Yep.
If it don't work out, then you need to call me. If you don't call me, then you are right.
Right, exactly.
So I'm assuming it was well. The officer did say that they were able to get us some, tell management to watch out and be careful. And she did have a point of contact to keep herself safe. All right, I'm gonna go to the next line.
And let me just piggyback on that, Clara. We do adhere to client confidentiality.
Mm-hmm.
We're bound by the law, by the Adult Protective Services Act, to protect the confidentiality and right to privacy of every single client that comes across our desk. The only way we would share information is with the client's express written consent. That is it. And we have to have that in writing.
Yes.
So if the client comes and says, hey, I'm fearful of this situation, then that conversation and that circumstance will be confidential.
Amen.
Yep. All right. So self-neglect. So we do have vulnerable seniors who self-neglect. And in self-neglect, yes, we go out and we respond to reported problems of self-neglect. And that's an inability due to a physical and mental impairment or both, or diminished capacity to perform essential self-care tasks that substantially threatens his or her own health, including providing essential food, clothing, shelter, and healthcare, obtaining goods and services necessary to maintain physical health or mental health. Basically, someone that's because of a physical or a cognitive impairment that is not able to manage their adult daily living needs.
Wow.
So in 2013, when the Adult Protective Services Act was legislated, the self-neglect was a part of it.
Wow. And this hoarding, this compulsive hoarding, Lord.
Yeah, we get compulsive hoarding. Now, we do have intervention services for hoarding. The Chicago Department of Family and Support Services has a great resource for hoarding, but it's just not as simple as taking someone's property and throwing it in the garbage, because a lot of times that property has emotional attachment. I mean, that the individual has emotional attachment to that property. So we try to utilize a holistic approach when we're dealing with hoarding situations. You can do more damage than good just by throwing someone's property out.
Yeah, you sure can.
Yeah. Next. So our program components, real quick, is that we do an intake. We have a 1-800 number, and we'll share that at the end of the presentation. And then at Metropolitan Family Services, we have an intake number from 8:30 to 5. The caseworker will conduct a 30 to 45-day investigation based on the allegations. If we say, yes, Ms. Jones is being emotionally abused, we'll open that case up and we'll work with Ms. Jones to find the right services to help mitigate those risk factors. And then if we run into some hiccups, then we'll keep it open and we'll do follow-up to make sure that we're fully addressing the scope of her concerns or his concerns.
Yes.
Now, we do have early intervention funds. Now, those funds are available for our seniors. Say if a senior needs an exterminator due to bed bugs or whatever, and they've exhausted all community options, I mean, we can utilize those funds to help mitigate those risk factors in the home.
That's a good number.
A multidisciplinary team, and that team consists of professional bankers, lawyers, mental health professionals. We just had our team meeting this morning, as a matter of fact, from 9 to 10. And we talk about difficult cases where we're having just a little bit of a difficult time with finding the right mix and combination of services to help this vulnerable adult. So they provide their input and professional advice on that. And then public awareness and education, what I'm doing now and what the Adult Protective Services Program is contracted to do is inform the public about this really good program to help our vulnerable seniors. And just The allegations. So we receive intakes and we respond. We're not first responders. So law enforcement, Chicago Police Department, they're first responders. We respond according to time frames set forth by the Illinois Department of Aging for priority 1, priority 2s, and priority 3s. The priority 1s are more imminent, like physical abuse, sexual abuse. The priority 2s are basically healthcare concerns like passive neglect and willful deprivation. And the less imminent ones are priority 3s like financial exploitation. So, and for financial exploitation, there's a 7 calendar day response time. For priority 2, there's 2 hours. And for priority 1s, we have 24 hours to engage the vulnerable senior.
Wow.
Yeah. And then here, like I was saying earlier, abuser's relationship to the victim, the child, children. Children are other relatives, spouses, parent, legal guardians, housemates, and so forth. Caregiver. So if we determine that a caregiver in the aging network is verified as an abuser, we notify the department, and that caregiver is put on the registry, or possibly put on the registry where they're no longer able to provide services in the network.
What?
Yep. There's a healthcare registry that the department created several years ago. If we verify a case against a healthcare worker that's in the Department of Aging's healthcare network, we can submit that information to the department. The department will review it and determine if that person will be put on the registry. And if they're put on that registry, then it can impact their profession.
So does that also impact, let's say, the agency that they're under?
The agency, no, it wouldn't necessarily impact the agency they're under. The agency they're under will be notified that person is no longer allowed to be in.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It would. Yeah. Adversely, yes.
Okay.
Yep. And then, so report. So now, so you guys will hear me clear. There are 3 types of ways to make a report, and that we encourage report making. That's voluntary reporting. That's mandatory reporting, and that's anonymous reporting. As a mandated reporter under the Adult Protective Services Act, if you see or hear or suspect abuse, neglect, and exploitation, you are mandated under the law to report. The Illinois Department of Aging just enacted clergy as mandated reporters. So clergy are mandated reporters. We were having cases where vulnerable seniors were showing up to church with matted hair and slips on and just totally disheveled. And there was no one advocating for the seniors that they were showing up to church or their place of worship.
Right.
So, the state of Illinois decided to make clergy mandated reporters.
Wow.
So if you are in the community and you make an anonymous report, we will not be able to contact you because the information that you're providing is anonymous. The state of Illinois do encourage if the senior is alert and oriented and has decision-to-make capacity, that you talk to the senior about these really good services, encourage the senior to make the report. But as a mandated report, if the senior refuses to make the report, you can make the report on the senior's behalf.
So what's the 800 number? Because I want to get that on our
yes, and it's actually on the PowerPoint too, but I'll share it with you.
No worries.
Yes, you can go to the next slide as we're wrapping up the slide. So and this is some more numbers. So self-determination, we are a self-determination program audience. We do not overprotect. We all have civil liberties and we all have the right to make good and bad decisions. The only caveat to that is if a vulnerable senior is cognitively impaired and lacks decision-making capacity and cannot appreciate the consequences of making the decisions that they're making. The state of Illinois gives us under the act the jurisdiction to proceed in that person's best interest until we find a legal representative to have legal jurisdiction over this vulnerable senior. We're all going to decline. It's just how human nature. So it's really important that you have surrogate decision makers, you have power of attorneys in place. So as you decline, your best interests are adhered to, because one of the things that we do in this program, and it's our last resort, is probate, is guardianship. And if your estate is not planned out and you lack decision to make capacity, and we cannot find a legal representative in the community, then our last resort is either the office of the state guardian, or the Cook County office of the Cook County guardian. Did I just say boo to the state guardian? If state guardian is listening to this, I don't mean that. I mean, it's just our last resort. Yeah. And we try at at every opportunity to make sure our clients are, like I said before, aging gracefully in the community with family and community support.
That's right.
You got to stay away from the guardianship. That's the last resort.
Yeah, that's a rough one there.
Yep.
All right.
And then as we come to a conclusion, so criminal prosecution. So some of the challenges, like you were saying earlier, Claire, clients are just being fearful, or seniors are being fearful of announcing their risk factors because of shame, blame, or retaliation. Criminal prosecution, not wanting to name or blame little Johnny for taking the life inheritance because he may get prosecuted and go to jail. Fear of being alone or institutionalized. You know, if I report my caregiver, then I'll have no one to provide care for him. I'm going to go into a nursing home.
Yep.
All right. Undue influence. There is no criminal statute in the state of Illinois for undue influence. So we have a lot of undue influence on our seniors, especially as our seniors become cognitively impaired. The undue influence becomes even greater. So that's one of the challenges of the program. Some of the challenges of the program.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep. And then here are just some barriers to services. I won't repeat this, but this lack of cultural competency, lack of awareness that we exist or other service providers exist. Housing issues, which is huge right now in the state of Illinois, trying to find housing for our vulnerable adults, and competency and reluctance to report family members.
So let me ask you this: how have you had a situation where the senior knew and felt that they were being abused, and the family was resistant to the information that they were giving? You know what I mean?
So the senior is being abused or neglected or exploited, and the family is just not addressing the concern?
Yes.
We would provide supportive counseling to the family.
Okay.
We will let the family know that these are some services to help you help your family member.
All right. Let me break it let me bring it to this moment.
Okay.
I started my show over 11 years ago. And one of the first shows we were talking about just in-home care. And we were on a major network, and a lady called in and she said, "Ooh, my church is on this station, but I ain't never heard a program like this." She said, "But I want to ask you something." So they screened the calls and they put her through to me. And she said, "My grandson is my caregiver, but he's abusing me. I don't know how to tell my daughter that my grandson is abusing me and taking from me because they may think something wrong with me." Mr. Hill, that's why I do this show as often as I do, for that one lady only. So what did we do? We told her to leave her number with the engineer. We continued our program, and that guest and she said, "I'm going to go do a well-being check." And so the grandson was gone. So we had to call her and say, "Look, your mother called our show, and literally, ma'am, I am telling you, you need to have a conversation and maybe seek some additional care or find a replacement because he don't need to be here."
That's right.
And literally, her daughter was like, "Thank you. Like, I'm at work. My grandson's taking care of my mom, so I'm on about my way. I didn't never presume." And so that happens so often. And that was one reason why, that is one of the number one reasons why I still do this show. Because if one person get it,
that's right. That's right, Clara.
My job is done. Just one person.
That's right.
But I just had to bring that because that was a situation that happens to anybody. I mean, how many times? But anyway.
No, you're absolutely right. Reluctance to report family members. And that's one of the barriers to services and not wanting to get family members in trouble and choose the lesser of the two evils.
Right. So they did have someone, it's called a preferred worker for those who are listening. And they did place someone else there. I don't know where grandson went, or there was a conversation in the home, but it was just like, whoa, it's a lot. So we were able to be of assistance to her. And I'm thank God for that. So are we on to the next slide? Or
yes, next slide. We're almost done. I think we have like 2 more slides.
All right.
So this is what I was referencing earlier. So one of the barriers is to services, reluctance to report family members. But one of our acronyms is trust, right? As professionals, as community partners, as family members, it's important that we take time to listen, that we respect the victim, survivor, that we understand how difficult this is for them to report, to even talk about it, to support their decision, whether they choose to make a police report or not. We support the decision. And letting the victim know, letting the vulnerable senior know that help is available. They do not have to suffer in silence for fear of retribution, retaliation, or shaming or blaming. Our role and responsibility as adult protective services is to alleviate those mitigating risk factors.
Absolutely. And I tell people, if you may know of a situation, but if you're not sure, just call. Let me put this. Well, we're gonna get the 800 number, but
coming up, yeah,
it's coming up. I'm gonna put the number up soon. But there has to be a moment where we have to stop and be more alert of our environment. And I am asking people. I get calls. I even had a minister who called and said, it's a lady in my building, such and such. And just like the other lady said, I don't want to get put out. But what do I do? Do I still keep, do I stay in this situation? Or what, I'm like, wow, it's just, we're talking about the people we know. What about those who on the outside?
That's right.
That don't have anybody.
That's right.
And they're alone.
That's right.
So well-being checks are much needed, still ongoing. A lot of things, as I mentioned, living independently. They want to do, shop and live as independent as possible. Who does not want that?
That's right.
So we have to be more aware. Call your girlfriend or your red hair group. Hey, girl, I'm going out. Or sir, ma'am, I'm playing checkers. I'm going to get coffee, whatever. Tell somebody something if you live independently, because people are not as nice as they used to be in the world.
That's right.
All right. I'm sorry.
No, you're absolutely right. And just to piggyback on that real quickly, a lot of our seniors are isolated. And sometimes, the only time they come into contact is when they go with people is when they go to the hospital.
Wow.
And so what we did was we started a medical response initiative to go and engage the hospitals and let them know about adult protective services, because doctors are not required to ask, seniors, are you a victim of abuse, neglect, and exploitation? Now, under the Domestic Violence Act, healthcare professionals are required and mandated to ask, 18 to 49-year-olds, are you, a victim, or, questions about domestic violence. But in the adult protective services world, there are no questions, asked. So our seniors will go into our hospitals, 90 pounds, dehydrated, unkempt, decubitus ulcers, and they will be sent right back home to the same, abusive situation. So part of our role and responsibility is doing the education and outreach and going into the least places where the information is being presented to make sure that we're covering all those areas. And that's why your platform is so important, Clara, in allowing us to provide this information to those who are suffering in silence and who do not come into contact with others outside of their home. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. And okay, next slide. All right.
Yes.
I am the official Vanna White for Mr. Hilton.
Yes, you are. I think we have like one. This is it. This is the last. Oh, we have one more slide after this. But here is the number to the Illinois Department of Aging's Adult Protective Services Hotline. That 1-866-800-1409. 1-866-800-1409 is a 24-hour, 7 days a week senior helpline, and there's a live body to take reports. Now, at Metropolitan Family Services, we're contracted to have an intake line as well. Now, to be clear, we service populations based off of zip codes and demographic areas. So our service area in Chicago is from Roosevelt, 1200 South, to I think 132nd South, and then we go as far as the Lakefront, east, and then West Harlem. So we do have an intake line.
Yeah.
That number is 1312-986-4332. That's 312-986-4332. At the 1-866-800-1409 number, they will route the intake to the appropriate provider agency. Like I said, there are 39 provider agencies throughout the state of Illinois, and they'll route that intake to that provider agency.
So let me ask you, how many locations through Metro Family do you have in Chicago?
I think it's about 8 satellite centers, about 8.
Okay. And they all have adult protective, or is just your location that goes out to others' communities?
So we have 2 adult protective services programming with Metropolitan Family Services. We have programming at 3843 West 63rd Street in Chicago. And then we have adult protective services programming in Evanston, Skokie.
Okay. All right. Fantastic.
And this 312-986-4332 number will connect to Evanston, Skokie as well.
Oh, cool. Okay, great. We're in good shape.
Yeah. And then here on the last slide is just the provider agencies that are affiliated out of Area 12 and 13, Illinois Department on Aging. So these are the provider agencies that are contracted out of Area 12 and 13 throughout Illinois that conduct these investigations and assessments.
Wow.
So Charities, Centers for New Horizons, and so forth.
So the information you gave was phenomenal. You were great. How do we get people more comfortable? You know, it's getting warm, people doing several things, and we're socializing again. But Mr. Hill, I mean, you know, my auntie, I know she need help. You know, I'm giving an example. Why are we so resistant to receiving this great service that you provide?
One of the things is like we talked about earlier, the shaming and the blaming. And then another thing is losing independence.
Yeah.
Right? And having someone come and tell us what to do, when to do it, and how to do it with our life. So a lot of times, you know, we can walk into situations and we just know it's not healthy and it's not good for the senior. But again, I mean, we don't overprotect. I mean, all we do is, you know, share the information that these are the resources available. And anytime you feel as though you want to, you know, utilize these services, then we're here with no shaming, no blaming, and we do adhere to client confidentiality. Now, it's totally different if the senior is cognitively impaired and lacks decision-making capacity. Then we'll move full force forward to make sure that we're advocating for that senior with intervention services and as much family support as possible.
Right. Now, how family support, how does that work? Because, you know, some of us, we just don't want to spend time on it. We got other stuff to do.
Yep, and that's one of the biggest challenges too, as well as having family members step up and assume, you know, responsibility for family members who are not able to maintain independence or a semi-independence anymore. And that's just one of the challenges, and it's a personal choice and a personal option. And like I said, we can't in this program force someone to be a caregiver or care for their parent. I mean, we just go in and say, hey, here are some really good services. Here's some supportive counseling to help you be a provider for your parent. And it's pretty much up to the individual.
Absolutely. So you mentioned also that you do an assessment.
Yes.
What is needed on my end? Let's say if I want you to come and overview a situation, what do I need to have in the assessment? Any documentation, or what's that assessment process like?
So we do investigations / assessments. But I want to be heavy on the word investigation because it's an actual investigation to gather and collect evidence to lead to a substantiation decision. So when the caseworker comes out, the caseworker is looking for documentation, bank statements, bills, power of attorney documentation. So any documentation that could lead to and support a substantiation decision after 30 or 45 days, that's what we're looking for. So, for example, if you're a caregiver and you're managing the finances, the caseworker will come and say, hey, Clara, here's a demand letter, and this is the financial records that I'm looking for the last 6 months.
Sure.
And under the act, I mean, it would, you know, we would be looking for that information.
Well, Mr. Hill, I know how many people work in this department with you, because you got to have a strong team because you're breaking it down to the bare bone, as they say. Yes. So how many team members do you have in just your department?
So caseworkers, we have 14, and supervisors, we have 4, and we have 1 program director.
Wow. And so you have about 3 minutes. Give us your closing statement. You've been great. Everyone, again, Mr. Hill is a part of our network. Let me tell you, we need all types of invitations. We'll come to your Red Hat meeting. I know y'all socializing. We'll come to your block club. We come to your senior stepper seat.
That's right. We will.
We're going everywhere.
That's
need invitations to come to where you are. If you need flyers for the information that you've heard, we'll be glad to send you that through our Senior Talk Media. You know how to reach me. I'll put my information. But don't let this information go on deaf ears.
Absolutely.
People are being abused. It's more rampant than we've ever imagined. And it's more than just one way of being abused as an elder. One is through physical, one is finance, emotional. There's so many different ways abuse happens, and we want to protect our beloved. That is our intent. I call them people getting better with age. It's a long title, but yes, we're getting better with age every day.
Mm-hmm.
But you still have to be mindful and be protective of yourself, of your surroundings. Just so many things. Even Officer McLean and I used to tell people, don't even take out a whole purse. Just take the little enough that's almost like a little credit card thing. Don't take it all with you.
That's right.
If you know where you're going, put your get your purse together or your wallet, a couple of pieces, and keep it moving. That way everybody won't be exposed. There's so many other ways we can talk about this. But I'm sorry, Mr. Hill, you did have your closing remarks.
And all this fine, Claire. Really good information. I appreciate the dialogue.
Yes, give us your closing statement.
And so your audience can know we're available anytime to come out and do presentations. We, like you say, we talk to the community, we educate the community with the ultimate goal and the overarching theme of leave no one behind. So my closing statement is the Adult Protective Services Program can help only those adults at risk who are identified through a report. We have to have a report.
Okay.
So don't let someone continue to suffer. Call if you suspect abuse, neglect, and exploitation. It may not be going on. You don't have to be 100% correct. Let us err on the side of the vulnerable adult and go out in the community and determine, the risk level. But Absolutely. Please don't leave anyone behind. And we thank you for your time.
Absolutely. So everyone, what a thorough show. I mean, you broke it down, and it's the information is there. We look forward to going in the community together. Thank you, Mr. Hill, for making this happen. We made that connection. We finally got it locked in.
Yes, we have, Claire, and look forward to more of the same.
Absolutely. So I want everyone to know that this is National Elder Abuse Day. Do we want that term? No. Are we living it? Yes. Is it happening? Yes. And so our expert through Senior Talk Media is Metropolitan Family Services, Lewis Hill and his team right there at 3843 West 63rd Street. Give him a call. His number is scrolling. If you're listening, it's at 773-884-2209. Let me tell you, I thank you so much for everyone for making us a part of your day. And please remember, in complete darkness, we are all the same. It is only our knowledge and wisdom that separate us. Don't let your eyes deceive you. I've been Clara Hubbard, your host and granddaughter in the community, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Everyone, take care.
Be safe.